The Last Word, Episode 12. The Waiting Game, when systems are forced to respond. Intro. Escalation changes everything. Once you write to the crime commissioner, once you present the evidence, once you expose the pattern, once you refuse to be dismissed, the system can no longer pretend you don't exist. But that doesn't mean it acts quickly, or transparently, or honestly. This episode is about the waiting, the strange, heavy silence that follows escalation. The moment where the system is forced to respond, but hasn't yet decided how. It's a moment filled with tension, uncertainty, and quiet determination. Section 1. The letter has been sent. There's a particular feeling that comes with sending a letter like the one I sent to the crime commissioner. It's not relief. It's not victory. It's not closure. It's something else, a sense that the fight has entered a new phase. Because once the letter is sent, the evidence is on record. The failures are documented. The police are accountable. The commissioner is aware. The system is exposed. And the silence that follows isn't emptiness. It's pressure. Pressure on the system. Pressure on the institutions. Pressure on the people who now have to decide whether to act or to ignore. Section 2. The system doesn't like being watched. Public bodies are used to operating quietly. They're used to internal reviews, closed processes, private correspondence, decisions made behind the scenes. But when you escalate to the crime commissioner, everything changes. Suddenly, the police know they're being scrutinized. The council knows the issue is no longer contained. The ombudsman knows their refusal is on record. The system knows the story is spreading. And institutions behave differently when they know someone is watching. They become cautious. They become slower. They become more careful with their language. They become more aware of the consequences. The silence isn't inaction. It's calculation. Section 3. The emotional weight of waiting. Waiting for a response from a system that has already failed you is one of the hardest parts of this journey. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You don't know who's reading your evidence. You don't know whether they're taking it seriously. You don't know whether they're preparing a response or preparing to dismiss you again. And in that silence, your mind fills the gaps. Will they act? Will they ignore it? Will they try to minimize it? Will they finally acknowledge the truth? The waiting becomes a test of patience, resilience, and belief in your own evidence. Because the system counts on people losing hope during the silence. But I didn't. And neither did Andy. Section 4. The power of knowing you've done everything right. One thing kept me grounded during the waiting. I knew I had done everything correctly. I knew. The evidence was solid. The legal framework was clear. The misrepresentations were documented. The unlawful actions were undeniable. The institutional failures were recorded. The escalation was justified. And when you know you're right, not emotionally, but legally, the waiting becomes easier to bear. Because the truth doesn't change. The evidence doesn't change. The law doesn't change. Only the system's willingness to confront it changes. Section 5. The system feels the pressure. During the waiting period, something subtle but important happens. You begin to sense the system shifting. Not openly. Not dramatically. But quietly. You notice delays that feel strategic. Language that becomes more cautious. Acknowledgements that weren't there before. Signs that the issue is being discussed internally. It's the behavior of institutions under pressure. They're no longer dismissing you. They're no longer ignoring you. They're no longer confident. They're calculating. Because they know that if they mishandle this now, the consequences could be far greater. Section 6. The calm before the next storm. The waiting period is a strange kind of calm. Not peaceful. Not restful. But calm in the sense that everything is poised. You've done your part. The evidence is in their hands. The system is aware. The pressure is building. And you know, deep down, that the next step is coming. A response. A decision. A shift. A confrontation. The silence is temporary. Because once the truth is exposed, it demands an answer. Closing. In the next episode, I'll take you into what happens when the system finally responds, the tactics, the language, the attempts to control the narrative, and the ways institutions try to protect themselves when they can no longer ignore the truth. This is where the fight becomes direct. This is where the system shows its hand. And this is where the next phase of accountability begins. Episode 13 is where the silence breaks.